this morning talking about some really cool insights that I think would be helpful for a lot of you guys, specifically if you want to know if you think that, full-time income is possible for you, if you want to find out directly from people who are doing it full-time and who got started much more recently than I did. I got started in 2008, and I had Anthony and Steven who both got started. Steven about 10 years, but Anthony within the last 4 or 5 years. I made a video this morning highlighting basically the two most important elements that I think ensured that they were creating full-time income from themselves. So make sure you do watch that video today. It's really important. But today, coming to you live from my car because I'm not in the office, but I did want to at least highlight a really big ruling that happened. I think just yesterday it landed. So as you know, sorry, my voice now decides to give out as I'm going live, but whatever. As you know, we've been waiting for the Suno and Udio thing to kind of shake out with the lawsuits, the RIAA, the record labels. They're all partnering up, suing Suno and Udio, accusing them of training off of copyright protected music, specifically theirs, the major labels, not asking for permission, not paying for it, and then potentially going in and replacing the very interests of those copyright holders, of those artists, of those publishers, right? And that got filed, maybe a little under a year ago. And so a couple of back and forths have happened, but really nothing. And there's been some noise happening over in Europe, but Europe and the US don't necessarily always fall in line with how legal rulings and definitely how AI regulation is going to go. If you've been following, Europe is much more on a heavy-handed regulation approach. The US right now, seems like we're leaning more towards more of an unregulated approach to it. So, we'll see kind of how it shakes out. But there was a huge ruling, and the ruling essentially was between an AI company called Ross Intelligence, I think, and Reuters. Reuters, as you guys know, the news kind of aggregator organization, right? Well, Reuters has this thing called, I forgot, is it Westlaw, something like that, or West something. It's basically an archive of a whole bunch of legal rulings, right? And so this Ross company came in and trained off of that, proprietary legal data. And so Reuters sued the AI company and said, hey, you came and copied our work and we didn't give you permission to do that. And now you're spitting out what probably will be a replacement for what we charge our customers for, right? We've taken the time to go through and get all this high quality data, searchable form. Your AI model will be able to pull all this data and potentially undercut us. And you didn't come and ask for permission to take all this data that we put together, right? So I guess at first, I haven't followed this case at all until yesterday, but I guess what happened at first the judge said, all right, we're going to send this to a jury trial because I think we need to get a little bit more of a deeper dive on how this AI model from Ross is generating the output to see how quote unquote creative it is. Is it generating something transformative, something brand new, and really something that maybe we could make an argument is not going to be replacing Reuters' business, but is just going to be adding something transformative and a whole new product line, essentially a new service, right? That could be additive to the economy and it's not going to be hurting the interests of Reuters. Well, I don't know what happened. Something changed, and yesterday the judge put essentially a ruling, a partial summary ruling. I don't know exactly all these terms what they mean, but essentially made a very clear indication that I think he said that it might be a she actually. Sorry, didn't even pay attention to those details, but I do know the details of what the ruling said. The ruling said two things that are really important and something that might be very, very awesome for us in the music world. Number one, that you don't have to have an actual market or service that is currently undermining the values of the intellectual property rights for it to be not fair use, okay? So in other words, if you guys have been following along, in copyright law, there's 4 elements of fair use, right? So you can copy something, make a derivative of it, use it for inspiration, as long as the 4th element is you're not replacing the business interests of the people that you've used the intellectual property from, right? Common sense, we all sort of understand that's a really good rule. It's a really good law for us to have in copyright law, especially with fair use, right? And essentially what this judge said is he said, the fact that there is a potential marketplace in the future, right? You didn't say it exists now, but there's an obvious, I guess, logical, common sense argument to be made that a potential future marketplace, a future service that this AI company could release would obviously step on the toes of Reuters' business. And so that was one big major thing to say. he doesn't have to even see how interests are currently being harmed by the AI model. He just has to have a very clear path to, yes, I can see how this company could easily, or any other company could easily take this data, use an AI model, and then go undercut the very interests of the people that they trained upon. That's new. We haven't heard that, as far as I know, from any court ruling yet. And that was from a US judge. So that's really, really important. The second thing, and I think this is actually even more like mind blowing and really, really good for us. The judge said the burden of proof to prove that there isn't going to be any service that could potentially undercut the interests of the original intellectual property holders is on the AI company. So in his ruling, he was saying, Ross, AI company, you guys have the burden of proof of proving to me that what you're doing with your AI model can no way in any possible shape or form hurt the interests of Reuters database and their business model of what they've already created. Now, I don't know if I've ever heard that either. That seems like to be a brand new, really interesting, seems to be a fairly common sense approach to this, to say, we might not have all the answers for how interests have been harmed yet, but we can easily see how they could be. And if you're an AI model going around training off of other people's intellectual property, which is very valuable, and you get sued for it, then you have to really kind of prove your innocence. You have to prove, with a very compelling argument, that anything that you're going to do now or in the future is just very unlikely ever going to undercut the interests of the intellectual property people that you just trained upon. Now, apply all of that to Suno and Udio, right? Suno and Udio today are waking up probably not feeling very good and confident about the future, because if you guys have been following the story, I don't know if it's like 10% or some larger percentage of tracks that people are starting to figure out through Spotify and other streaming services are AI generated, right? And where's all this AI generated music coming from? Likely a lot of it is Suno and Udio. They're like the top of the tier. They have the highest quality vocals, highest quality sonic capabilities. So chances are a good chunk of the music that's now being identified as AI music on streaming platforms, and also earning royalties, and also taking royalties away from human creators, probably many of the same human creators that helped supply unknowingly Suno and Udio with their training data. Suno and Udio might have the burden of proof to have to claim that they are not undercutting the interests of copyright holders that they trained upon, and they won't in the future. That might be the burden of proof that's going to be on them in the current lawsuits. Now, if you're Suno or Udio, how do you prove that when there's already evidence right now that it certainly is happening? So it's AI music, it's on platforms, it's probably you could probably easily track and trace a lot of this stuff back to Suno and Udio, and there's only so much money to go around for the royalties with Spotify, and maybe 10% of it is getting siphoned now away from the human creators and going to people who are just prompting it in using these models. That's a really almost impossible, I would say. I'm not a lawyer, of course. Maybe there's a way you could, but boy, it seems like the evidence is already there that they are using the copyright protected data that they've trained upon to replace the very interests of the artists that they've trained upon. So that is not going to be a winning argument for them. Now, again, this Reuters lawsuit is about text data, legal data, okay? Might be a little bit more black and white than music, which is a little bit more open for interpretation, a little bit more of an art form, still revolving around the copyright law system, intellectual property law, all that kind of stuff. And just because one judge ruled one way does not mean that every other judge is like, well, that's the law, I'm going to rule the same way that that judge did. But these rulings do influence the future rulings. And they obviously play a role, maybe more so than other factors and other variables. And so anyways, I just thought this was a really, really big, interesting happening that just happened. And as I promised you guys, any major developments, I want to make sure you guys are keeping up on tabs on it. And I won't do this, obviously, every single week. And I haven't been, because there just hasn't been a lot of news or a lot of big, exciting things happening. But this did move the needle for me. This did give us a little bit of an indication of where we might be going. And again, Suno and Udio right now are not the threat to us in terms of going to, TV clients or reality shows or movies or trailers or something like that. I don't see that as the immediate threat right now. Usually Suno and Udio are going to be used to be making pop songs that people want to either just send to their friends on social media or privately, or they're uploading it to Spotify to try to get hits and try to get streamings, right? But my concern and why I've just always kept them in my sort of target is because the ruling or whatever comes out of this situation will obviously inform what comes down the pipeline next. And you guys know that, if it's just open season and fair use on anything, there's going to be companies that come out and try to train off of Universal Production Music Library and then go serve our clients without us, and are going to use our music, maybe not mine specifically or yours specifically, but a large number of production music library tracks could be trained upon, and then we could be undercut in our own industry by these AI companies who are not going to be, seems like so far, for the vast majority, not cutting us out in on the profits of doing that kind of a thing. So I just want to make sure that we just keep our eye on this thing. I mean, obviously it's all out of our control, but I do think that it's really interesting to kind of look at these kind of early rulings and these early court cases that might not even be associated with music, because it might give us an indication of what we could be preparing ourselves for. So today is just all wins. You know, it's not a guarantee of the future, but it definitely is. It's a sort of a solid mark in our column for this going in the way that we probably would like it to go, to have consent, to ask, to have and have AI companies ask for more permission to train off of our music. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Good to see you guys. Dead Rockstar, cool. Saw that ruling also taken on its face. The ruling could absolutely cripple the intrusion of AI into the creative realm. It could be just a tiny little bump in the road. Yeah, and it's just interesting. It's one of these things, because we're so pent up and waiting for a result, that any little movement in this space, we always probably will over exemplify or over analyze and make it, make a mountain essentially out of a molehill. So we might be thinking this is a massive thing when really this is just, a tiny battle in the massive war that we're going on now. But yeah, we'll take it. Anything we can take that kind of keeps us in the full center of this kind of technology, I'm definitely for that. Okay. And I don't have the link. Sorry. If you guys just look up Reuters AI case ruling, you'll find it on a Google search or just social media. People are talking about it for sure. So couldn't find an article either, Mike. Yeah, sorry. Just type in Reuters AI ruling. It just landed yesterday, so maybe there's only a couple of articles that have covered it yet, because I just saw it like literally when I first woke up this morning, and maybe it landed literally this morning, I don't know, but it was very, very early this morning that I saw it, so I think it just popped up late last night. So you guys can go check it out. So, but anyways, that's all I got today. Got to get some groceries done. Got to get some errands done today. So I just want to give you guys some good news, encouraging news. Keep up the good fight, and yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure you do watch that video I uploaded today. I think a lot of very valuable insights can be had, especially for those of you that are thinking that you're going to be that 2 to 3% that turns sync into your full-time income, and you didn't spend those 2 hours watching directly, getting that interview replay from those 2 full-time sync licensing producers. You should put that on your playlist today, top of the list. When you're commuting to work, at the gym, whatever you're doing, just listen to what people who are doing this full-time say. Listen to their wisdom, listen to their advice. This is the kind of stuff you will not get from ChatGPT. You're not going to get it from a Google search. You have to listen directly and learn from people who have the direct wisdom, because they're actually walking the walk. And you guys will definitely get that from those 2 interviews. So definitely watch that video today. I have links in that description box for that video as well. So, all right, guys.